Hello everybody and welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm Shellie Geigle with J&S Hobbies and Crafts, and today's tutorial is on how to make this 8 by 10 large Sea Dreams album that I've been working on. The finished spine is about 2 3/4 and it's quite large, and I think it came out beautiful. I'll take you around to the back. And let's get inside this, and then we'll move into the materials list and start assembling this. You'll want to download the materials list and the free pre-cutting guide to get you ready to start working to make this with me. And this is a step-by-step, start to finish. We're on page 1 here, and what we have is some fussy cutting here, some flowers, and this is magnetic and it flips up. So it gives you a space here to place a photo, and it will flip down, and another space. Right here is a large fold out, but what we did was we made this pocket, and there's 3 little pockets stacked on top of each other. And I got a bunch of picture mats in here. Now picture mats we don't do together because everyone has their own taste in size of photos that they like printed out. Me, I like a variety, and I also like to crop my photos down sometimes too. So there are the 3 pockets, and then this opens up, and there's a place right here to place a couple photos depending on your size, and you can even journal off to the side if you'd want. So over here we have another large pocket. Came out so cute. And then this opens up, and we have this belly band, and here is open. You can just stick a photo right on in there or several and use this as a background. It just all goes back in. Over here on page 2, what we have is we did some cutting, and we made this so it was a pocket. And I just have a little tag and a little mat in there. This flips up and gives you another large space to place your photos here and here. And then this is a very large side pocket. And what I ended up doing is making a very large folder. So I can get several photos in here, or just some, like a big 4x6 or whatnot. Lots of room, and you can definitely get more mats in there than just that. We come to this page, and it's a very large pocket, and I've just stuck a bunch of stuff in here. I made a folder. Here's another mat from my photograph, and then a very large mat, and then I stuck this over here for some journaling. So if I wanted to place a photo off to the side, I still can see the little turtle, do some journaling, and stick my photo on down. So that is something you can do as well. But this is a very large pocket for you, and I think it just came out great. Over here is a large flip, and we flip that up, and we can flip that down, and we have a nice large side pocket here to place some picture mats in there. And this is also a little tuck, so in case you would like to get a tag in there, you can. Here what we have is 2 larger fold outs. And this just comes out, and you can slide your photograph right in behind the turtle. And then of course over here you can place a photo, and then more places just to plant your photos in here. So this has the best of both worlds, pockets, and you can place your photographs directly in the album. Moving on to our next page. This page we left alone, and so you can just place a photograph. If you wanted to not cover him up, you can stick it over here. or you can stick it higher, however you want to maneuver it, and you can also do some journaling over there. Coming to this page, it's very large, and this is magnetic, and this is also a tuck. And what do I got here? So you can tuck a photograph, a picture mat in there, or you can do a tag, whatever it is that you want to do. So this folds out and gives you a spot right here to place a photograph. This opens up and more space just to place your photographs. Here is a very large tuck, and I was able to get some picture mats in there, some good sized ones. So then this whole thing will fold out. And I don't have a picture mat in there. Let me grab. I have plenty in here, that's for sure. So this is a huge, large pocket. Place your picture mats. I still have some little bit of paper left so I can do that. But you can see how big this is just so you can place photos, however it is you would like to do, and you can stuff this full. The next page, we just have a very large pocket, and I was able to get some larger picture mats in there. And then this here was just from the cut aparts left over. I kind of glued it onto the side, onto my mat, and then I can slide a photograph back in there still. And then just a small little mat. So those are some ideas for you. Our last page, what we have here is a large flip, but we have a very large spaced out pocket, so you can get picture mats in there with ease. And there's room for more. It folds out, and we have this open space just to place your photos, as well as over here. So that is what we will be making today. Let's move into the materials list. Materials list. So we're going to go over this really quickly, but you will want to download the free PDF of the materials list and the pre-cutting guide. The pre-cutting guide is what's going to give you all your measurements and scoring for your solid colored, like crafty colored cardstock. The decorative paper we cut together so you can get exactly the same album that we'll be working on today. Okay, so I want to start with the main ingredient, and that is the Stamperia Romantic Collection Sea Dreams 12 by 12 paper pack. And there's 10 double-sided sheets in here, and you're going to need 2 of these. The cardstock I'm going to be using is the American Crafts. It's called Brown Sugar, or even the caramel will work, but this is brown sugar. It's 80 pound and it's 12 by 12 size, and this is going to look really good with this once we put it all together. And there's 25 sheets in here. You're going to need 2 pieces of medium weight black chipboard or craft chipboard, whatever color you want. It's going to get covered, but it is the medium weight and it's 12 by 12 size, and we cut that down and it's on the pre-cutting guide. Let's talk about adhesives really quick. I'm a score tape type of girl, and I'm going to be alternating from my 3/8 to my 1/4 inch, and you should have some left over of one or the other. We're going to be using wet glue, and I like the Art Glitter Dries Clear Glue. And my bottle is a mess. I refill this all the time. And you'll probably want to get that metal tip, that precision metal tip, so that you're not wasting glue, because you don't need a whole lot of this. Now you may want to pick up some fabric tap, and this is good for fabric or jute. And for the side closure, you're going to need probably about 12 or 13 inches of maybe a 1/2 inch or 5/8 inch wide ribbon. And I just chose this color. It's kind of a light grayish slate colored. And that is for our side closure. And What we use with that is the Dritz Extra Large Hook and Eyes. Now in this pack there's 3 sets, so you'll be able to get 3 albums for your side closure. I was thinking about incorporating some jute in this. Jute you can get at your dollar store in a small little bit. You don't have to go out and buy a big thing of this. I bought this some time ago, but I thought we might incorporate some of this in it. For our frame, I'm going to be using the Frank Garcia, it's by Prima, Chantilly Royal resin frame. And I think this is going to look really good on our cover. You're going to want a pack of magnets. I used the basic gray. These are the large magnetic discs. And there's about 12 in here, so we'll have 6 pairs. If you have some netting or maybe even burlap, we might use a little bit of this. And again, I think the dollar store has some of this. The netting would work really good if you can find that at the dollar store. You're going to need 2 strips of Tyvek that are about 1 inch wide by 8 inches tall. And all Tyvek is I sell it in like large envelopes, so 1 envelope's going to last you forever. But it's a material that is very hard to tear, and I used this in the binding. Flowers. Now flowers, I did a separate tutorial on how I inked and shaped these flowers, and there'll be a link down below the video in the description area. But just for some leaves and some flowers. And then I also had some of these little twirlies that I'm not sure if we're going to use or not, but I said to have them. But I have more than enough leaves here. You don't need this many. This will last me at least 2 more projects easy. But just have some flowers ready to go. And if you're not a flower maker, just find some flowers that match in. Other things that you're going to need for doing this tutorial is you'll want some scissors, you'll want a ruler, you'll want your scoring tool or your bone folder, pencil with an eraser, craft knife is always handy, your scoring board, and your cutter. And that's it. Let's start putting this album together. We are ready to start assembling our album. Before we do that, let's double check ourselves, and we are going to review our pre-cuts for that section on the PDF that you downloaded. So the first thing that it said to do was have 2 pieces of chipboard that were 8 inch by 10 inch, and we labeled these 8 by 10 cover, and these are chipboard, and I wrote chipboard just for the purposes of the tutorial. The next piece we wanted was a 2.5 by 8 inch piece of chipboard, and we called it our spine. We had 2 narrow strips of Tyvek that were 1 inch by 8 inch. We cut 3 pieces that were 7.5 by 10 inches, and we labeled that inner pages. Now what we wanted to do was we stuck this on our scoring board so that we were 10 inches across. You may or may not be able to see that very well. It is on the pre-cutting guide, but we are 10 inches across, and we scored each one at 5/8. So 5/8 on this, this, and this. And again, we called these our inner pages. The next thing that we cut was a 4.5 by 7.5 inch piece of our cardstock, and we labeled this inner spine cover. We cut 2 pieces of cardstock that were 7.5 by 9 1/4 or 9 1/4. We called these inside covers. There's no scoring. Then what we had were 2 large pieces that were 10 inch by 12 inch. We called these our album wrap. And then we had a 2 inch by 10 inch piece of cardstock, and we just called that an album wrap. So I'm going to get this out of the way, and what we're going to start with is the 2 inch by 10 inch album wrap. and your 2 pieces that are 10 by 12 album wrap. Okay, so on your 2" by 10" piece here, what you're going to want to do is grab your 1/4" score tape. I use score tape. If you're using glue, that's fine. But what you're going to want to do is make sure that you are a 1/4" away from that edge. So if you want to make little lines at the 1/4" from the sides, top and bottom, that's going to help you line up. And what we're going to do is either you're going to do your glue or you're going to do your score tape. And I'm using, again, 1/4" score tape. That'll be great. That'll work perfect. And quick tip about score tape is you'll want to wash your hands to free it up of any lotions or oils off your skin before touching it. So we're just going to lay a piece 1/4" right to the edge there, all the way down each side. And we'll lay another piece over here. Right along the edge. Okay, once you've done that, you're definitely going to want to burnish down the tape to get out any air from underneath it, and it helps it adhere down. And then what we're going to do is we're going to flip it over and inspect our piece, make sure there's no score tape hanging over the edge like I see here. Just make sure when we do it, we have a clean piece. Now here's a tip. I'm going to grab my cutting paper cutter out, and I'm not going to be cutting anything, but what it's going to do is I'm going to be using the paper guide right here to keep me straight. So I have this, and this is where my craft knife comes in handy. I'm going to take off one side. Okay, now we are 10 inches tall by 12 inches wide. So I'm going to put 10 at the top so that we don't get turned around here. So as you can see, I'm putting 10, so that tells me I'm 10 inches here. So first things first, oh no, I'm going to place this up against the paper guide to keep it straight. Next thing is I'm going to take this side, I'm going to push it up against the paper guide. And then I'm just going to overlap it right onto that score tape. And I think I'm pretty even there, hopefully. And that's going to help it keep it fairly straight for you when you get that on. And I'm going to burnish it down. This side is fairly easy for me. I'm right-handed, so I'm going to release the score tape. I'm going to slide this one underneath there, line that up, and then I'm going to overlap it right on top of there. Now, if you don't get it on and you can see adhesive or feel a little, know that it's going to get covered with decorated paper, okay? This will just help to... And if you're a little bit uneven like I am by maybe a 1/16 down there, don't worry because this all gets wrapped. Okay. So the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to grab our chipboard covers and our chipboard spine. And this is easy. We're going to take our chipboard spine and we're going to place it evenly over those two seams. You don't want your seam at the edge because then you run the risk of getting splits. But we're just going to stick that right there in the center. So let's grab some score tape. And I think I'm going to use the white or the 3/8 for this. And I'm just going to apply it around the edges. And I usually say around the edges like a picture frame, so that is exactly what we're going to do. Okay, so once you have it on there like that, let's just do 2 strips on the inside, and we'll just kind of, we don't have to measure it, just going to stick it down. And again, I'm using 3/8 for this. And we're going to burnish that. And we will place our piece. Now another way I taught is where you place your piece down without the score tape and you draw around it, so it's easier to put your piece down knowing exactly where it goes. But I think with this it's pretty easy because of where our seams are. So when I place this, I'm going to leave 1 inch here and here. So I'm just going to eyeball this and make sure my seams are away from those edges, and then I've got about 1 inch top and bottom, and try to get this straight. If it's a little off, don't worry about it because it does get covered up. I'll burnish that from the other side in just a moment. Now for the covers, what's going to happen is we're going to place a cover on each side of this, and we're going to leave a space because this is a wrapped album and we do need that space. I do have some, and I've got about 1/4 inch, so in between there. So leave about 1/4 inch here and here when we do place these down. So let's add our score tape, and I'm going to use the 3/8 for this. A little wider, and I'm just going to go all the way around like a picture frame to start. So what I'm going to do over here, because this one's going to be placed over here, is I'm going to come over here and I'm going to lay an extra piece on the left hand side, because what happens is when I turn it over, that extra piece is over here. So let's go down the middle. This is our back cover. And we'll just go 2 on each side of that. And you don't have to be perfect, just space it out by looking at it. And then we're going to burnish this. Make sure your tape is down really good. And now we're going to remove the backing and we're going to place this together. Really easy. Now in my tutorials, this is a step-by-step. So if you're a beginner, just because the way it looks on the front might look too elaborate, or it might look too hard for you, it won't be, because we do this together step by step. I show you where to place pieces, how to do it. Whoops, there goes my little thing. Okay, remember we're going to be 1/4 inch away from the side over here, and we're going to line it up. The bottom of this lines up with this to keep us straight. So as straight as we can anyway, and that should leave you a good inch or so off to the side. We're going to do that again. We'll be taking this nice and slow, and so that everyone has an opportunity to make this. Those of you that have done tutorials with me before, made your albums, you kind of know what I'm going to say next. And that is, when we go to cut our decorative paper, I'll demonstrate how we cut it, and then I will make sure that everyone gets the cuts the same so that we have the same leftover decorative paper. It makes it much easier and you'll get the same results. Okay, so I'm looking at this. We're going to put that second strip right next to it on this side. We'll go 1 down the middle. Now remember, we have that frame that's going to sit on the other side with our decorative paper. So we're just going to put 3 total on each side, just to make sure there's no liftage. We don't want any liftage. And we'll burnish that down. Now after wrapping, if you get some splits, I will show you how to fix that. So, and there's different ways depending on the splits. I'm anticipating that I don't get them, but you never know. It can happen at any time. Okay, so my 2 is over here, so I'm going to make sure it goes down this way, and I'm going to come in about 1/4 inch. Make sure I'm straight here. Oh, I'm a little off, but I don't think that's going to matter. Okay, once you have that down, let's flip this over, and we're going to burnish really good. Get that tape adhered down to her. So what I'd like you to do now is we're going to work the sides so that it helps to not get the splits. Why is my camera bouncing like that? Did I bump it? So we're just going to place a hand over here, and we're going to gently just start working that paper up. So just gently working it little by little until we can flatten it over. Okay? We'll take the soft rounded edge, not the pokey end, and just kind of, and then we'll use the flat edge and just kind of comb it over to help it. We're going to do that with this side as well. As you make these albums, it gets quicker, and everyone has their own way of making albums, and so there's no right or wrong way. I just try to do it the easiest way that produces good results. So we got that done over here, and don't worry if you're a little longer here than over here, it's not going to matter. Now we're going to start working up through here, and I'm just going to kind of work my way over little by little. Little by little. Especially around where these seams are, that's pretty much where you'll start seeing some splits sometimes. Okay, the rounded edge, go right along here, and then the flat edge. Just kind of comb it down. If you get waves, it doesn't matter. It's all going to go down the way it's supposed to do. Okay, I'm going to flip this around, and I'm going to do the same thing up here. And when I do up through here with the seams, I'm going to take that as one area by itself. Kind of work it. Okay, now that we've done that, let's grab our score tape. I'm going to grab my 1/4 inch for this, and all we're going to do is come right on over onto the cardstock to the right side of the chipboard. Now with this, you don't have to go all the way to the bottom, just come about halfway there, because we're going to be clipping off this corner. So let's do that all the way around. Okay, the next thing is around the edges, so I'll come down maybe 1/2 inch, 3/4 inch from the side up there, because that's going to get clipped, most of it. And we'll do the same thing. Once we're done with putting this around the edges, then we will burnish it down really good. And then we're ready to clip the corners to make sure that this wraps well. Okay, so I'm going to tell you what we're going to do first before we do it. But in the corner, we're going to be cutting at an angle. You don't have to measure this. The only thing that you need to make sure is from the corner of that chipboard, you leave about 1/8 inch spacing. So I'll show you. Just going to clip. It's all going to wrap, and then we also have a inside cover. So we're just going to go around this and do this. And I'll show you mine in just a moment. So you can see about a 1/8 inch away there. You don't need to keep these. You can toss that. Alrighty, so we're gonna start, and I'm gonna peel back a little bit of the score tape on the top here. Get that out of the way, and we'll start with the sides. This one as well, I'm gonna peel back just a little bit. So with the sides, we're just gonna pull them in, and then we're gonna burnish it down. We're going to do the same thing over here. Pull back a little of that because we're going to have some tucking to do here. Okay, we're ready. Let's fold it over and burnish it down. So that is what you should have. Let's go ahead and remove the rest of this score tape, and we're going to we'll do one side and then we'll do another. Okay, this is where we're going to do a little tucking. You can use your nail or you can use your tool. You'll place it on the side of this here, and you're just going to curve it around in there a bit. And I'm going to do the same over here, just kind of curve it around. And it's going to tuck in that little piece for you, just a little bit, so your corners aren't so sharp. Now for me, I'm just going to kind of work this again, and I'm going to press this down. Now one thing is you don't want to pull and stretch. You've already conditioned your paper by working it. We're just pressing now. Okay, let's burnish. And on your corners, you can always flatten them out a little more too if you'd wish. Whatever you'd like to do. So that's down. And that's down. So this is what you should have. Okay, let's flip this around. It's easier for me so I don't get my head in the video. And we're going to do the same thing. Take our tool and push it around like that. Push in those corners. That's it. Okay, and we're going to wrap. Okay, let's burnish. Okay, now I can already tell you that I have the splits right where those seams are. What you want to do when you do that, and it all depends on paper, it depends on grain and all that, but this isn't a deal killer at all, because you'll take your wet glue and you're going to dab just a little bit right where that is. Okay, and then what you're going to do is press it over. You don't want to keep touching and touching and touching because you'll end up, this glue dries quickly. But you're just going to wrap it over and press, and the glue will dry clear and you're all taken care of. And that's all there is to it. Okay, don't close your album just yet. We have more things that we need to do. And the first thing that we're going to do is lay some Tyvek. Now I want to clip this down just a little bit. So we should have probably laid it before we did that, but that's okay. So what we're going to do with this is we're going to cut this down to about 7 inches. If we had placed this down before we wrapped it, it wouldn't be a problem. But I am bleeding. I cut myself. I just realized that. I'll be right back. I think I poked myself with my little craft knife because I'm seeing it here. Okay, had to bandage myself up. Didn't even realize I did that until I started seeing. So we are about 7 inches what we're going to do is center that top and bottom right over this crease. And this is another way that you can do it. You don't always have to have it tucked underneath. This is all going to get covered. So let's grab our 3/8 inch score tape, and we're just going to lay it down the side. And this should be good. I don't think we need to go down the middle of it. I think it's going to be perfectly fine. There are so many ways to make albums that, you know, I try to change it up. And actually I had meant to put it underneath, but you don't have to. It's going to do its job no matter what. But this is another way I've taught where it's shorter than your album and goes on the outside of your wrap. So we're just burnishing that down. And again, what we're going to do is we're going to center that top and bottom and have it over that. I'm not going to worry about any overhang here because it's going to get covered. Did you guys see when I cut myself? How long has that been like that? Okay. I'm just going to kind of look. This is all going to get covered, and it does not have to be straight. You won't see this. So I've got that down, and I'm going to burnish it down pretty good there. And I'll do the same for this. Naughty craft knife. And I'll just get that, try to make it even, and place it. What the Tyvek serves for is, in case something were to ever happen, the spine on the outside rips out, it's not going to detach. This is what's going to keep it. And then you can run your little tool, not the sharp, but the softer, rounder edge right in there. Okay, we are ready to get out our 4.5 by 7.5 inch inner spine cover. And the side that you wrote on is the side we are going to be placing our score tape. And what's going to happen is this is going to place evenly, top and bottom. So you're going to have probably about a 1/4 inch here and a 1/4 inch here. And that's very important for this album because we do need to have that 1/4 inch top and bottom for when we reinforce the spine hinges. So let's turn this over. This is a very important piece. This whole piece we are going to cover with score tape. We don't want when our hinges lay down to this, we don't want any of them to have any give once it's down. So this is what we're going to do. So we'll go around the outside edges like a picture frame, and then we're just going to fill it in with our score tape, row by row. So I've got that. So now row by row. So I have just a little bit left over here, and I'm going to put some of my 1/4 inch right on in there. And if it overlaps a little bit, that's okay. We'll just stick that right on in there. Okay, let's burnish. Make sure this is down really good. Get all the air out from underneath that score tape. If you would like to use your ruler and measure down 1/4 of 1/4 inch from the top and make a pencil line to help you, you can. So when I remove the score tape, and I'm showing you first, we're going to do it together, but remove it and I'll line up with that and then I'll place it evenly. This album's going to come out so nice. I love the colors of the sea dream. I really do. It's beautiful. And just in time, summer's coming up. So if any of you go to the beach, you can get your album ready for your photos, for your little adventure down there. Or you might even live at the beach if you're lucky. Okay, once again, I'm going to be looking where those seams are, because I know it's pretty much in the middle of this. But even if you get this a little bit off, don't worry, because we have our covers that's going to also reinforce this stamp. So I'm going to make sure that I am even, that I have the correct overhang side to side, and I'm going to place this. And I'm going to burnish this down really good. Again, this is an important piece because our hinges sit on top of it. And burnishing, don't skip it, because that's what's going to help your adhesive to stay down and get that air out. Next thing is we have our inside covers. We have 2 of them. Now what's going to happen is when we place this down, it's going to make a nice clean looking even, and it also helps to keep this down. So if you would like, place your hand in the middle, because I want you to be able to see where your side hinges are. Put your hand under here and then slowly bend it up. And the reason why I use score tape is because I get a nice smooth. There's no bubbling up from glue not getting underneath where it needs to. So all we're going to do is go straight up. So now I can see where my hinge is. So when I place this evenly on here, and I'm going to line it up with top and bottom of the spine cover, it's going to look really good. It's going to look like it's supposed to look. Okay, we'll do this side. Get your hand under there and slowly bend. Now you don't want to bend it all the way over, because your book is not meant to do that, and you'll end up splitting out your sides. Okay. If you see any places that need to be burnished down, do that. Okay, so let's get our score tape out. I'm going to use my 3/8 for this. And again, we are working with our 7.5 by 9 1/4 inside cover. So whatever we do with this one, we're going to do the same with this one, as far as the score tape and how we place. And before we place this, we're going to inspect to make sure we don't have any overhang of our score tape, because you will be able to see it. Okay, we're going to go 1 down the middle, and we'll go 2 on each side of that. We're going to burnish that. Okay, let's do the same with our other piece. Okay, let's inspect our pieces. Make sure that we cannot see any score tape peeking over the edge. If you can see it, clip it. That's good. And that's good. So you see where your crease is here. All we're going to do is remove the score tape, and we are going to line up with the top and bottom of the spine piece, which is going to be very helpful. Make sure you don't get it on that spine, because you're going to, the spine hinge, because you're going to move it over a little, and when you're done, it's going to be evenly placed right there. So you have even here, even over here, as far as seeing your inside cover. So we'll do this together. And you don't have to be perfect. Just make sure you line up with top and bottom of that spine cover. Okay, here we go. Lining up. I'm going to look before I place it. Try to keep this as even as I can. And hope that looks good enough. By the time you get your decorated paper and all that, that will sit on top, you won't notice anything that isn't right. For me, when I place these and I'm not filming, my head is right on over the piece to make sure that I get these on exactly. Because I'm filming, I can't quite get my head in the video, because then you don't see. I try not to anyway, because that that kind of stinks if you do that, but so I'm just going to do the best I can here. And again, if you need to double check yourself where that hinge is, do that. All right, so this is what you should have, a nice clean looking album. It is time to get our inner pages in. And all we're going to do, here's our score line, is we're going to turn that flap over on that score line and we'll burnish down. I think it's easier too if we label our pages. Page 1, 2, 3, 4, because the way I look at it, it's like reading a book, you know. So I think that's going to be easiest for us. And we will as soon as we get this in. So this is so easy how to put these hinges in. You see where the top and bottom of that inner spine cover is? The top and bottom of this matches up perfectly. So it'll all look really good. You won't see the seam up here, especially when we're done with reinforcing. But how we're going to do this is you're going to pull in your side. We'll get our score tape on here, but you're just going to bring that hinge right up against this when it's up. Line it up top and bottom and we place it. So let's get these all ready to go. So with the peak up, we're going to place our score tape. And I think I'm going to use 2 strips of the 1/4 inch. And when you do this, do not get it on that hinge there, the score line. Just go right to the side of it, go straight down. And I'm using the 1/4 inch. It seems to fit perfectly. We'll go along the edge over here too. Once you have it down, we're going to burnish it down really good. We're going to turn our paper over and we're going to inspect. If you can see any score tape, you're going to clip it off. Okay, let's get these other 2 ready. I've got all the score tape on my little hinges here, and I've checked to make sure I have no overhang. So let's start. And I have a cup of coffee brewing. I could use some coffee right now. Okay, I'm going to pull this up. I'm going to try and keep my head out of the video so I can see what I'm doing. Again, here's my hinge. This edge is going to go right up against this and line up with the top and the bottom. I'm going to press it down. That's how easy it is. Here's my other tool. This one's good for burnishing. And I'm going to burnish that down really good. Get all the air out. I'll flip it over and do that. Now these other 2 are very easy. I'm going to remove the score tape and I'm just going to place that little hinge right up next to the next one, line it up, press. Here we go. Line it up so it's even, press it down, and then we use our tool. Okay, last one. It's done the same way. So once you have them all in, they should fall in line pretty good there for you. Alrighty, that is all there is to constructing the album base, and right now your pages are going to be pretty stiff, as well as your spine, but it should be fine, and these will all become straight once we get our inside stuff in. We are now moving on to decorating the outside of the album. We are now moving on to decorating the outside of our album, and I did reposition the camera a little bit, and I'll do it again to keep my head out of the video, at least my crazy hair. But what you're going to want to do is grab both of these pieces out of your paper pack. They are identical. They're the one with the whale, and on the back it looks like this. Very pretty. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to just double these up to cut them. So make sure they're going the same way. Now, one thing is, in order for us to get the same leftover pieces, I'm going to be guiding us through step by step each measurement. And I try to stay consistent. So I'll always say measure from here on over this way. Even if we turn our paper this way, we're going to be going like this. And that keeps us from going up, down, up, every which way with our cuts. So we're going to do this together to show you. The first thing we're going to do is turn this sideways, and they are doubled up the same. We're going to measure over 7 7/8 inch and cut. So we'll do that together. So 7 7/8. Here's my blade right on the other side of this little guide over here. 7 7/8. And we're going to cut. These two pieces we're going to stick off to the side in our reserves for now. And our reserves is just a scrap pile. I call it our reserves. I've always called it that for years. And it's just our scrap pile because we're reserving these pieces to use later. So this is what you should have. So our next step is we're going to turn this completely upside down to where the whale is upside down. And there is a reason behind my madness why I do it like this, and I will show you in just a minute. So we have that like this. We're going to measure over 9 7/8 inch and cut. So 9 7/8 and cut. We'll put these two pieces in our reserves. Now, what that's going to give us, if you turn it over, is this beautiful looking print like this. I'm going to move this out of the way, and I'm going to grab my album. And if you were to place this down and center it in there, it will give us a nice crafty border, not too much and not too little. It looks really good. So we are going to get these ready to go. So we're going to turn it over to the side that you can see the whale, because the whale is going to be hidden underneath. Mr. Whale will come into our scrapbook album later on. And we're just going to first start by going all the way around the outside like a picture frame on each one of these. So let's do that. I'm going to use my 3/8 inch score tape for this. So once you've got the score tape around each one of your pieces like a picture frame, on this one we're going to put an extra piece right over here. And this is going to be our front, because our drits, remember when we put the two pieces underneath? Well, that's where our dritch sits, and we want to make sure when it comes over it doesn't pull up. So this is going to be my front. And once I have that, I'm going to go one down the middle. And I think 2 on each side for this will work. I can always scribble a little bit of glue in there if I wanted. And we're going to do the exact same thing for this side, except over here is where we have the 2 pieces laying down. We're going to, after we get our score tape on, we're going to burnish it down, and then we're going to inspect the edges to make sure we don't see any score tape peeking over the edges. And we'll be burnishing again once it's down, but let's make sure that the score tape makes it all the way down to our paper. Okay, this one that has the score tape looking like this, the shell's over here. We have two. This is our front. We're going to stick this one off to the side. That's our back. And to inspect, I look pretty good. Now, because this is so big and we want to make sure that we get it on straight, we can dab some glue up in the corners here to help maneuvering before we place it down, because the glue will allow us to wiggle a little. And this is such a big piece. The score tape is unforgiving. Once it's down, it's down. So we will do that. Squirt a little bit of glue right here and a little here. You might want to dab some in here. And if you want, you can scribble some in between that. Well, we didn't get too far into the tutorial before my fur babies decided to start barking. Hang on a second, I think we have a delivery. Okay, here we go. I'm going to try and get this on as straight as I can. We're going to open this up and burnish it down. So there's our front. We're going to flip it over and we're going to do the same thing with the back. Well, I was filming during their nap time, but they are up and about. If any of you have dogs or even cats that like to make an appearance in your videos, you understand. And it's usually Sissy is the one that you hear. Okay, here we go. If you'd like to use glue, go ahead. Oh, Sissy, what is up? And we will place that. Just make sure you get down your corners really good. That's my biggest pet peeve, is the corners. Not getting burnished down enough. All right, let's get our piece for the hair. In your reserves, you will have this long 12-inch piece. Looks like this on one side with the blue and white flower. And it has this down there. The other side has no writing, and that's what we want. And we're going to look at it like this, to where the flowers are down here. Let's measure over 2.5 inches and cut. Now we do have these leftover pieces that are perfect as far as height, but we're a little short on the sides. So that's why we're going to do it like this. So 2.5 inches, and this long strip we'll put in our reserves. Now we're going to turn it like this, and we have the little white flowers over here. We're going to measure over 7 7/8 inch and cut. This we'll put in our reserves. And this should be a nice fit, and that'll look good on the spine. Let's get our score tape out, and we're going to do the same thing. We're going to place it going all the way around like a picture frame. And we're placing it on the side with the blue showing on the little flowers. Once we get our score tape down, we're going to burnish, and then we're going to inspect to make sure we don't have any overhang of score tape. And we'll just do 2 in the middle going down. Just space it out, eyeball it, you don't have to measure. And inspect. That looks good, and we're going to place it. There we go. Okay, we're going to have your flower on the cover should be over to the right, and your flower should be down here. And I like to tilt it up so I don't get my head in the video, but I'm just going to place it evenly, and you should have a crafty border. Now I'm going to just split my album like this, and I'm going to burnish that down. Get those edges really good. And there it is. All right, so here's something. If you have a binder clip handy, or perhaps these ratchet clips or some sort of clip, grab it out. Let's get into our drits really quick. And for right now, all we're gonna be gluing down is the eye, but you may want to have your hook out just to help you. Now I just use the art glitter glue on this, and it's just fine. But what we're going to do is we're going to add some glue right here. And I'm going to bring this up so you can see. I'm going to add it right here, and this dries clear. So just get some on there. Go up a little bit. I think you can see that. I'm going to come right on over here to the side, somewhere in the middle, and I'm going to place that. Now before I do anything, I'm going to make sure I'm in the middle somewhere there. That looks good. Now before I do anything, I'm going to kind of hold this down with my hand, and I'm just going to place the hook in there. If it's out too far, I'm going to maneuver it in, but you don't want it to where it's bending this. It should just come right in easily. Once you have your spot there, you can always clean up any glue that you might see. If you don't have a binder clip or anything, you can hold it there for a few moments, but it generally should take maybe 5 minutes. But I'm just going to clamp mine down and just set it off to the side. In the meantime, and then this you can just put back in your pack. This part gets attached at the very end of the tutorial. In the meantime, let's start getting things ready. Okay, the cover. Behind the cover, you will see that there's a bunch of different sentiments. Just be careful when taking it off. Flip that over. Let's grab our frame. So the one that I thought would fit nicely in here is you can do Dance with the Waves, or At the Beach, Life is Different. And I like that. And lightly with my pencil, because you're going to want to erase just lightly so you can see when you're cutting this out. I can see this, how far over I need to go. So I'm going to come over to the side of it, and I'm going to come in between here, and I know it's going to fit without getting anything else, because you don't want to just cut out that circle. You want to be able to have some extra that is going to be glued to the back of this. So that's why I'm cutting wider without getting into here. And up here, I'm just going to come right across under this. Okay, now that we have cut into this, this is going to go into our reserves. We're going to place this down, and we'll be able to see that little circle that we did. Okay? And that looks good to me. Now this is where it's easier for me to cut out and around. I'm just kind of holding it there. I see that I need to clip off just a little corner there to hide it. And I'm going to need to clip off over here. And you'll want to be doing this too. And then as far as over here, I know I can cut just along, and then I'll recheck myself. And that looks good. So now I'm just going to go around the edges, up through here, and I'm going to stick it. And I can see that little line I did, so that's going to help me. And I think that looks really good. Okay, I'm going to press this down, make sure it's all down. And let's see here. I think that's going to look really good. Let's grab some of our netting or something that we might have. Now, one thing about burlap is eventually it's going to shred, and that is fine. I kind of like that look myself. I'm just going to cut a little bit off, maybe a square, make it into a rectangle, whatever. Just cutting a piece. Now what I can do is dab glue on this once I get it down. And I'll cut this. So that's all I'm going to do there. And then like I said, I can dab some glue when it's all down to keep it from fraying anymore, or just not have the fray. So I'm not going to glue that down yet. I'm going to kind of put this together and see how I like it. So we have some leaves. And we have some flowers. So I'm just doing an arrangement here just to see how I would like to do this. Now we had some twirlies that we did. I may incorporate that. Check them out, see if we like what we were doing here. What do you think? Well, I think once I get it glued down, it's going to make the difference. So I'm going to go with this. I'm just going to spread it around. And this is too, like I said, you can definitely get some glue under there to help stop the fraying if you're using the burlap. Alright, now because I have some fabric here, I'm probably going to be using fabric tack along the bottom edges of this. I might just use it for the whole thing. And try to center that. I'm not sure, what do you think? Is that centered? I can't see without getting my head in the video, but I think that right there is good for me. So I'm going to open this up. And I'm going to release this for a moment so I can get this down. You'll definitely want to press in the middle there. Okay, so before I do anything else, I'm going to get these leaves on there. And I think I can remove that for now. While this is drying and this is still drying, it's pretty on there, but I'm going to get these leaves on there. Give a little bend on some of these. I didn't shape this one. But I'm going to use the fabric tack because it's going to be going over that. I don't know exactly where it's going to hit, so I might as well just use all this. Hi Sasha, how are you? Hello. Now I got it where I want it, and I'm just going to continue on, and then I can put more glue where it's needed. We'll get that one up there. Needed. And That's pretty. Which one do I want? I think I'll use this one. Okay, time to glue. And right now I'm just using the darker ones up near the tops. And then, like I said, I'll touch it up with glue where needed. Those have got to dry. That looks pretty good. The twirlies now. I'm going to get that up underneath there. Just lift my leaf and stick it. And that one too. Now this all has to dry. It's going to take a moment for sure. So let me take a look. I think that looks really good. And I'm going to clamp this down, and I'm going to give this probably about 10 minutes to dry. While it's still drying, with your jute or your string or whatever you're doing, just make a small bow. And I left one a little longer. And I think I'm just going to stick that right here. And this is where fabric tack is going to work really good. Okay, we're just going to let that dry a bit. And then I'm going to check and see if there's anything else I want to do. Now I had some thoughts about what I wanted to implement on the cover, possibly. So we're going to kind of see if this works, but on the back sheet of your paper pack, you will find the cut aparts. Let's cut out and around this cute little guy here. And one thing is I want to say that's going to make things much easier during the tutorial is when you're cutting out pieces, if you can cut out around a piece to leave the rest intact, it's easier to find rather than cutting and them all up and then trying to locate them. So we're going to see how this looks. If he doesn't look right where I want to put him on the cover, we'll still be using him. So he's just adorable. Or she. She or he. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to cut out and around him. And then I'm going to show you what mine looks like. I've cut mine out. And now in the instructions for on the pre-cutting on your chipboard, it said don't throw away your scraps. And this is why. I had a feeling I would be using something like this. And this is we're going to take our time with cutting around this, but we're going to glue this down to our chipboard. We're going to make it nice and hard, and then we can always bend it around a little if we want, but we don't want this snagging, and I didn't want to use cardstock. We'll just take our time when cutting this, and this will cut with scissors, the chipboard. We just want to stiffen up our piece so that if it ever got snagged, it's not going to tear on us. That's one thing is when I do tutorials, certain things I like to do a certain way. So the last thing I would want to happen is to guide you on this journey with me and have nothing but crap come out of it, you know? if we're making this and taking the time and expense, we want our album to look good. So I'm just cleaning up some of the glue that squirted out. And you're not going to use fussy cutting scissors on this. You'll want to use a pair that's has a little more strength to them. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cut off this excess. It's going to make it easier for me. And then I'm going to start cutting them around this as best I can. And by the time we're done, you can always clean up what needs to be cleaned up. But as you can see, it's fairly easy to cut. And you just want to, you know, cut a little here and there because it is chipboard and it is stiff. So just take your time with it. Do the best you can. And that's where, too, the craft knife will come in handy for you to clean up anything that needs to be cleaned up. So this is what mine looks like after the chipboard. And all we're going to do is gently give him just a little bend without creasing it. And a little bend this way. And let's see what that looks like. Oh, that is so cute. That would look so cute if we put him on there, wouldn't it? I like that. Ooh, just like that. So this is where your clips might come in handy. You may have to hold it down, but we're going to be placing glue. So to be safe, just make sure his head's going to pop up a little, so you don't really need. But so this is what I did. I just left the top half with no glue because it's going to pop up a bit. Oh, he's adorable. So I'm going to just kind of get over here and I'm going to clamp it down. And for this, I'm going to hold it here. I might have another clamp that I can use to help. And then this will glue down. Now I think that looks cute. I like that. For over here, let's see what we can do. Let's just put a little flower, I think would look cute there. Just a little one. Just glue that down. So I'll get that. And I think I'll put the base of it there. And that like this. Push down that flower a bit. What do you think? I think that would look really cute. My cover is dry. It looks awesome. I love it. We are now moving on to page 1. We're on page 1 and we have several pre-cuts from our pre-cutting guide, and we're going to review them before we do to check ourselves. So the first thing that we had were 2 pieces that were 7 1/4 by 8 inch. And what we did on each one of these is we laid this on our scoring board. So now I'm going to bring this down so that we are 8 inches across. We scored at a 1/2 inch and 5/8 inch. And that is on your pre-cutting guide. And there were 2 of those. The next thing that we had was we had one piece that was 2 inch by 7 1/4, and we called it an FO band. That FO means fold out. There's no scoring on that. The next piece we had was a 1 7/8 by 8 inch, and we called it an FO pocket. That's our fold out pocket. And what we did was we laid this on our scoring board, so we were 1 7/8 across, and we scored it at a 1/2 inch. It then said to turn your piece so that you were now sitting at 8 inches across, and scored a 1/2 inch and 7.5 inch. Just like that. We had a 6 by 6, we called it a FO front/back pocket. And what we did on that is we laid this so we were 6 inches across, and we scored it at a 1/2 inch. We then turned it so we are now 6 inches across again. We scored at a 1/2 inch and 5.5 inches. So this is what you would look like. We next had a 5 by 6 piece, and we called it FO, front/middle pocket. We laid this on our scoring board so we were 5 inches across, and we scored it at a 1/2 inch. We then turned it so now we are 6 inches across. We scored at a 1/2 inch and 5.5 inches. So it looks like this. Our next piece was a 4 by 6. We called it an FO front top pocket. We laid this on our scoring board so we were 4 inches across. We scored it at a 1/2 inch. We turned it so now we are 6 inches across. We scored at a 1/2 inch and 5.5 inches. Our last two pieces that we had were two that were 4.5 by 6 inches. We called it our top flip. On each one of these, we laid this on our scoring board so we were 6 inches across. We scored at a 1/2 inch and 3/4 or 3/4. Alrighty. Let's get into our decorative paper and we will start assembling our page 1. In our paper pack, we have this gorgeous print. And I definitely wanted to use this. So we'll be using this one as our base decorative page. We do need to cut it down though. So on the back it looks like this. And we're looking at it where the top of the frame is up there. Our first cut, we're going to measure over 2.25 inches, that's 2 1/4, and cut. So 2.25, and that is going to cut off a little bit of our frame, but that's okay. This piece here, we're going to put in our reserves. And towards the end of the tutorial, that's where we will be reinforcing our hinges. Now that we have this off, what we're going to want to do is we're going to measure over 7.25 inches and cut. And we'll put that in our reserves. Hey, that's a great thing to use for journaling, that's for sure. For this piece, what we're going to do, and I'm going to bring this up, again, the top is sitting over on this side and we're looking at it sideways. Right over here, you will see this part of the frame. You see right here, just along here, that's where we're going to stick it on our paper cutter and we're going to cut straight down. So I'm going to show you that. I'm just going to stick it right on over here. And we'll put this in our reserves. So as you can see, I just cut it right where the tip is, straight down. Now here's the easy part. All we have to do now is, looking at it like this, we're going to measure over 9 inches and cut. So 9 inches and cut this piece off. So this is what our sheet will look like, and it looks really nice. The first pre-cuts that we are going to need is our 7.25 by 8 inch fold out. And all we're going to do is fold on those score lines. And once you do that, then you can kind of push it in to see what that's going to do for us. It's going to give us our spacing. So how this is going to work is we'll attach our first one and then we'll do our other one. One side's going to have a hinge off to the left for this side, and our other one is going to have a hinge off to the right. So you may be upside down with your writing if you wrote them the same way. I kind of wrote mine one way and the other. Okay, so here we go. We have an inside score line and an outside one and our flap. On the outside one, I want you to pinch and crease that so you will still be able to see your other score line. We're going to slide that little hinge back behind. Line it up, make sure you are straight with your paper, like so. And you're going to want to pinch and hold on to it so it doesn't slip. And I like to place my hand down here, and then I'm going to pull this out. And I'm going to add some glue to that flap. So immediately after we are done putting this hinge over, we're going to open it up, make sure no glue seeps in over there. So we'll just, and then we want to burnish and spread out that glue. Okay, let's open it up and make sure that we don't have any glue seeping into our little spacing there. And I seem to be okay there. We can then push back against the other score line, and that will give us our spacing. It's time to attach the other one. The hinge is off to the right. On the outside score line, let's pinch and crease. And we're going to do the same thing. We're going to line that up, top and bottom. Pinch and hold it and glue it down. If you feel it slip, definitely start over with realigning it or you'll be sorry, it'll go on crooked. Okay, let's open that up, check to make sure we don't have any glue seeping, and now we can fold back on the other one and press. So what you have is a nice fold out. Alright, we're going to open this up and we're going to start with the left side. So I'm going to find our paper, and right now your paper may bunch up on you until we get it down. Now to save us time with cutting both our sheets for the inside here and here, we're going to cut these at the same time. And I'll grab out my paper cutter one more time, but it should be very clear now how I tell you to measure. So in your paper pack, you will find two of these prints. On the other side is this. Double these up the same, and we're going to turn it sideways. And we're going to measure over 6 7/8 inch and cut. 6, oops, make sure there's nothing under there. 6 7/8 right there. We'll stick these pieces in reserves. These are good pieces. So we still have these doubled up. We're just going to measure over 7 inches and cut. Here's another great panel piece. Ooh, we got a little guy there still too. All right. So now I think you got the hang of how I tell us to measure and what's happening. Each one is the same. And if you were to lay this one down like this, you will see that it fits nicely in there. But most importantly, we have a border here, here, and here that are the same. And you still have that same border before you hit that outside score line. Because you want to try and stay away, if you can, as far away possible from that outside score line so it doesn't mess up your mechanism. For this, we are just going to glue this right on down. I think that's pretty even. Let's burnish. We also had a 2 by 7 1/4 FO band. That is going to just stick right here to here, and it's going to fit top and bottom. So double check your cuts. This should be 7 1/4. Your fold out panel is 7 1/4, and you don't want it to go over. So let's just add some glue right along the edge up here and down here. And we'll center that in there as best we can. That looks good, and burnish that down. And that way you still have some room to get something in there, but you're not so loose it falls out. In your reserves, you will have this. This is the side or the top part of that frame, and you'll see this on there. And then we have this. So if you were to place this down, will be just a little bit too long, but that's okay. What I want you to do is just place it down so it's even. You have even amount of cardstock showing, and you have it up here. We're just going to grab our pencil and do a measure to fit. So as you can see, what I've done here, I'll bring it up so you can see a little better. But I made a line, and notice it's not to the edge of the craft colored cardstock. It's just above it, so I can still get that. So I'm going to trim that off really quick. And we're just going to glue that right on down. Very easy. In our reserves, we have this cut apart sheet. And you see Mr. Whale here? We want him. So I'm just going to come in from the side and cut around him so I don't mess up any of the other stuff. All right, put this back in your reserves, and now all we need to do is cut out and around him, and I will show you what mine looks like when I'm done. This is what mine looks like. Oops. And as far as going around some of the flowers, everything, the leaves, I just kind of cut out and weaved in and around. So now that we have that, I'm going to set this off to the side. One thing that I do like to do is glue pieces down to our cardstock, and then I will cut out and around, leaving a little bit of that crafty colored cardstock around, showing around the piece. And not only does this strengthen our piece up, but it will separate it out from some of the prints in the background so it doesn't get lost, and it really sharpens up the piece. So that is what we're going to do. You do not have to be a good fussy cutter for a lot of this. You'll be amazed at what that craft cardstock will do for you, sharpening it up. So you definitely are going to want to burnish that down to your cardstock and then clean up any glue that seeps out. But you're going to want to give it a little time to adhere down. So make sure it's down, and I'm just going to clean up any glue now. And by the time I'm done with that, I will start cutting. Good. All right, so again, cut out and around, leaving a little bit of a craft border. And as soon as I'm done with mine, I will show you it. This is what mine looks like. It's not perfect, but it looks good. So I'm going to be gluing down some leaves to this band. It's a good idea to maybe stick a piece of scratch cardstock or something back behind there, so in case you put too much glue on. But all I'm going to do is kind of center that right there. And then, so I'll glue that down, and then the whale will come over like this, and then we will have a flower. And I think that will look good. Let's see if there's something else I'd like to do, but I think that's going to be it. So first things first is I'm going to take a good look at where I need to apply glue. So, and you can cut off some of these little curly cues off your thing if you'd like. Ah, I'm caught. Some glue right here. And this is why I use cardstock, just in case, because I know I've got to dab off some of that glue, because I know I put some back behind that, and I definitely want to press it down to get some excess off there. I'm going to move this, make sure, press. It looks like I'm pretty good there. Okay, we're going to put him now. And as far as he goes, what I'm going to do is just kind of flip this over to the back side and just kind of draw a little line here where I think I might need the glue. And again, I'm going to keep that there. And I think I'll put a flower right here. And we do have enough spacing just to get our little single layered flower in there. Take a moment to grab. And I'll bring this up. So we're going to give that a moment to dry. I think that looks really nice. Over here, I'm just going to move this over. For this piece, what we're going to need is the 1 7/8 by 8 inch FO pocket. Let's grab our scissors. We have a score line here, and one across the bottom. If you notice, it makes a square, so we're just going to cut those little squares out. Okay, let's fold on those score lines. Fold in our sides. Now when you fold in your sides, if it catches on this bottom one, just trim a little more off over here. Same goes on this side. Make sure it clears. Okay, so we have this. We're going to fold in the sides. We're going to dab just a little glue down in the corner here on each side, and we will pull this up. And then we'll use our tool to kind of burnish that down, help it. Alright, so what we're going to do now is we're going to glue this down. So I'm going to flip it over. Your flap should be at the bottom and on the sides. Let's add some glue. And you can use sparingly, especially along this little lip there, but you definitely want to get some glue on that. And then we're just going to come down to the bottom. Now make sure on this that you are 7 inches wide and you are 6 7/8 this way. So this is what it's going to look like, because now you're going to fit. And this, nothing should catch on you. So that's going to go down first anyway, and then this one's going to be coming over. So nothing should catch onto your little whale there, flower stuff. All right, let's get for this, and I had something in mind. Leave your footprints would look really good there. So we're going to want to put this on our paper cutter, and I am going to grab mine back out. So my blade doesn't lift, and a lot of you I know have the type that does. So what I have to do is I'm going to put this on and I'm going to cut right in between, because I'll I'll cut this down to fit, but cut right in between those two. And then I'm just going to cut right along the bottom so I can leave your footprints out. So just, because I don't want to detach any of this other stuff. Okay, now I'm going to get it from this way. And I think that looks good. All right, so right here, if you cut it like this, you should be perfect to fit. But what you're going to want to do is shimmy this over until leave your footprints in the middle there, side to side. And we're just going to do a measure to fit to get off some of the other bit that we don't need. So a line there and a line here. So I'm going to cut it this way and that way. And I'm going to glue this down. Now when I glue this down, I'm going to make sure that I leave a little bit of that crafty border showing at the top. So it shows the division of the pocket. And it'll make it stand out a little bit more. That looks good. Okay, on our cut apart sheet, you see the little seashell? Let's cut that off. And then we're going to cut out and around it. So when you're done your piece, just like this. And for this, I'm just going to glue it down over there. I don't think I'm going to back that. I don't think it needs to. It's going to go right there without hiding anything. So the highlight is to leave your footprints. Make sure I get any glue up from behind that. All right, looks good. We're ready to add our glue to the back side. And again, we're going to do the same thing we did like on the previous page, is to make sure we have a nice border, and it should be the same, and get this down. So I think that looks pretty good. We're going to fold that in. And we'll probably cut for both pieces since they are the same size. So let me grab the paper that we're going to be using. In your paper pack, you will find another one of these. And the frame, this part is at the top. We'll turn it sideways. We're going to measure over 6 7/8 inch and cut. Once you have that, measure over 7 inches and cut. Now this piece here, I just want you to place off to the side because we're going to use some of that on the front. We're going to have a pocket sitting here, so we're going to get away with splicing together some pieces to make use of some scraps. But for this, we're going to flip it over. And which way do we want to go? Like this, looks good. And we're going to center it on our piece and we're going to glue that down. There's nothing that goes on this one, so this will be a great place just to plant photos. I'm trying to keep my head out of the video, but I think that that's pretty straight on. All right, so that one, I'm just going to flip that out, and I'm going to pull this one over. So we have this piece. In your reserves, you will find a 12-inch long piece, and it has the stripes going the same way. It's about 2.5 inches. So what I want you to do is look at it like this, and we're going to measure over 6 7/8 and cut. All right, so how I want to arrange this, I think, is we're going to have to do something here. That part's going to show. We'll go like this. because the back side, well, the back side's nice too, actually. It does not have to match up because it's going to get partially covered. I say let's go with that rather than the more busy. And just make sure your pieces are the same. Don't glue it down yet. I'm going to show you what's going to happen here before we do that. So don't glue it yet. Here, just lay it right in front. Well, I want you to lay it on your piece so you can see your border. So if you were just to kind of place it down there. Okay, the 3 pieces we need is a 6x6 FO front back pocket, 5x6 front middle pocket, and the 4x6 front top pocket. Now on each one of these we are going to, just like we did with the other pocket, our square lines are here and it creates the square in the side. We're going to cut out all those little squares. And then we're going to fold on those square lines. And we can rearrange these if we want, but I think we're going to be okay. The first one that we're going to work with is the 6x6. And we're going to get this ready to go. So we have our sides pulled in, our flaps at the bottom. And we'll squirt a little glue down there and fold it in. So if we need to actually turn this around, which we may, we can do that because that's going to get pretty much covered. So let's just turn that around because you're only going to see part of the image. And it looks like the writing goes like this. We can do it any way we want. So here's this. What I want you to do is place this all the way down to the bottom of the paper. Let's see here. Ooh, you know what? Doing it just like that would look really good, giving it a two-tone. Let's try that first. So just place it the way it would be glued down. Don't glue it down. And place this one right there. Now it's going to bubble up and not be real straight. But what we're doing is we are layering on top. And I think this is going to be the best bet on how to arrange our paper because we do need to conserve on paper. And even though I have our pre-cuts ready to go, cutting our decorative paper is as I go. So this is our 5x6. And until this is glued down, it's not going to look right, but we're going to just layer that right on top and to the bottom. And we'll do the same with the little 4x6. Just folding in. If I'm going too fast for you, pause the video. But these are all the same. And by this time, you'll be a pro at these pockets. We've done several. Okay, now let's take a look. Because we still have our decorative paper to add to this. And I think that's going to look really good. Because what's going to happen is that's going to go over. And this is going to go over. We have this color. And then we can brighten it up with that. Okay, we're sold. We're doing it like this. So the first piece you're going to want to lay down is this one. And the easiest way to do this is if you were to lay down, look at how much trim is here and here, and if you get the same amount as top, bottom, it'll look right. I like that two-tone. Gives it a little something. And you get to see how my mind works. That's scary. Very scary. Just gotta think these things through. And use up those scrap pieces because you can do this and get away with it on a lot of your pages to save you from cutting into a new sheet. And no one would be the wiser knowing that there are 2 scrap pieces that you used. Okay, so when we overlap this, you're going to want to make sure you get right down on that seam. There we go. We'll line it up with this one over here. Pull it over until it looks right. Perfect. So I'm going to fold this one out, and we're going to grab that 6x6, and we are going to lay it, and it lays right over our decorative paper. The open end is up. Now don't go assembling this because we still have decorative paper to place on top before we get our other ones. And we'll pucker up some of the other ones as we go. Just make sure you get it down. Alright, so when this comes over, we're going to need some paper. We don't have to go all the way down, but we should get about a good 1.5 inch strip. And this is perfect timing for us on some of those pieces. These are exactly the same. Okay, so this part, that's plenty to cover up the other one. We're about 2 1/4. If I was to lay that down and lay this, see, it's going to cover this. Alright, so all we need to do is to cut it. We're going to measure over 4 7/8 inch and cut. We're going to take the more colorful side. Oh, hey, how did that work out? You see the green back here? It looks like the leaves are popping up. Now, that is so... When that happens during tutorials, I don't think about that. Well, sometimes, but most of the time, if it happens like that, where it kind of goes together and looks like a takeoff from the piece that I'm working with, like the green up here, that is pure luck. Pure luck. But I have did cuts like that before where I wanted them to trail off. So I think that looks good. You see what I mean? There's green in the back and there's green coming up. Let's place our 5x6 now on top of that. Again, we're working on the outside here. Just place that right over it. Line it up the same. Make sure it covers side to side. Whoops. There. We have room here and here. Okay, so I have this piece out. It says this on the back is 12 inches long, and I think this one's only, what, 1 5/8. And that will work, because if you lay this down, give yourself a little bit of a crafty border, put this down, it's still going to cover. So I'm looking at it like this, where there is some greenery over here. Let's measure over 4 7/8 and cut. And I'll put that at the top and we'll glue this down. Pretty simple. So if you do venture off to make your own album by yourself, well, you are making your own album because this is a lot of work. We're just assembling together and you've got your cuts. But if you want to do something like this on your own, then kind of stop and look in your scrap pile and kind of do what I just showed you. Kind of look and see how it looks. We're at the 4x6 now. So page 1 has a lot of pre-cuts. Our page 2 won't have as many. So right now all I'm doing is looking in my reserves for something that I would like to use. And I think this is perfect. In your reserves you will find this piece. It's 12 inches long by about 4 1/8. About that. We're going to measure over 4 7/8 and cut. And once you have that, place it down, leave yourself a little bit of a lip, and we're going to measure to fit. Come down to the bottom of that pocket, make a pencil mark on your piece, and we'll cut it. So now, when I glue that down, oh, that's pretty too, isn't it? I'm taking this side up, so I'm going to actually use this. I like that. that print. I do. Actually, I'm going to go upside down with it. You never know what I'm going to do. And it doesn't matter. I'm just looking for some of that print on there. On your cut apart sheet, we want sky above, sand below, piece within. We're going to go out and around this piece here. And we're going to try to not clip this off. I'm just going to go out and around it. I'll put this back. And what we're going to do is cut out and around this. And I'll show you what mine looks like. And we are going to back this to some craft cardstock to make it really pop for us. And we have some other things there to do.